process of the score was a long and lengthy one. We were putting on a whole variety of different test scores onto the film, and just trying to see what the film itself would speak to and would yield to. And the film was rejecting everything. Everything that was traditional film score seemed to reduce or simplify or sentimentalize what were layered subtextual emotions.
We all knew from the very start that this was a fantastically difficult film to score because it is not in a genre. A composer takes his cue from the idea of what kind of film is this. But this film isn't any particular kind. What we're really talking about is someone who, rather than writing what's called program music, is a composer in his own right. I would say there only are 3 or 4 in the world. And I think, obviously, Philip is the preeminent example among those.
We kept on referring back in our temp score to Philip Glass, who was not on board at the time, and it seemed an incredible stroke of luck and when he finally agreed to write the whole score for us.
This is a movie about art. It's about how art affects life, which is, well, would you agree it's a little bit rare? We don't come across that very much. I liked it right away, and I said, oh, this is a very, very interesting movie with a lot of quality in it, both in the writing and the directing and the acting and everything. It's a very challenging job for a composer because we'll say, how is the music going to function in this? And it looked to me, as I saw it even the very first time, that what the music had to do was to somehow convey the structure of the film. The story is very complicated, and the music could take on a very important role in the film as I saw it. To make it viewable, to make it comprehensible, so the stories didn't seem separate, so that the stories was tied together. So the music, it seemed to me, had to be the thread that would tie the movie together. You might have thought you could have a different music for each of the periods. And I said, no, I wouldn't do it that way. I wrote the same music to go through all 3. As those characters reappear, variations of these themes appear, and so you have the feeling that the music at the beginning really is the music that you hear all through the film. When you first hear it, it seems to start and to stop. And the next time you hear it, it just keeps going. And it's that feeling that you get in the morning where you're not quite sure you're awake yet. And the music does that too. It kind of starts and stops, and then it goes on and it stops, and goes on and stops, and then it gets going. And then it just keeps going. It's kind of, maybe many of us had that feeling in the morning. I'll just play a little bit of it. I chose the piano because I wanted an instrument that was very personal, that could cross periods very easily. The piano can do that. And I combined it with a large string orchestra to give it a kind of a density and weight of sound. In the same way that we're looking back through time. We're looking back and forward at the same time. At the very end, we hear the Virginia Woolf character, Nicole Kidman, is talking about facing life and how she has to face life. For her, committing suicide wasn't a tragic event. It was an act of volition which would complete her life in a way. It's an idea that comes up in Japanese literature more than in Western literature, that taking a life can be a fulfillment of a life, can be the completion of a life. So it wasn't done as an act of desperate unhappiness or insanity. It was done in a very different way, so that the music does not have to echo a conventional idea of death. It's more of an existential idea of choice. There's no question that the emotional point of view is conveyed by the music. Images are surprisingly neutral. Not that they don't have an emotional content of their own, but they can be easily manipulated depending on the music. So that the direction the music takes, it's like it's the arrow that you shoot in the air. Everything follows that.
What's fantastic is that Philip's work is incredibly complex. It works as a sort of another stream of consciousness within the film, almost as another character that links, complicates, and expands any particular scene that we're in. And there is a sort of gap sometimes between the image and the music, so that there is a counterpoint between the two. And I think he's written one of the great scores.